Hello everyone, Irini Hara streaming from Oslo, and today I want to speak about burnout. And this is a topic that I often see nowadays, and many people started to speak more about this because it is quite a frequent phenomena in the society, and it affects also our work life, leisure life, and so on. And also because I see around me many very young people, 20, even 30 years younger than me, that complain of being burnout or having to go through the burnout. And I've been reflecting which kind of insights to bring to you, because I experienced being close to burnout several times. And then I had to assess my situation and make some changes. And I'm not sure if speaking about my own situation will be relevant, but to say like that, what has been relevant for me in this experience, when I realized I'm very close to just snap out and very close to a general breakdown, what really helped was I have to make myself a priority. This was the first thought, because if I don't do it, nobody else will do it. And the second thought was what needs to change in my life, in my own attitude, in my own style of living, in the quality of life, in my priorities, and so on. But beyond these two aspects that I had to reflect and also take action upon, once I made a serious evaluation of the situation as a personal situation, beyond these aspects, I think would be interesting to speak about what I believe it is the root cause of burnout. Because there are many people, once they get into burnout, then they start to speak about how they overcome the burnout. But in reality, what I don't see is people trying to understand, why did I get here, and what else I could do to change from inside uh, the approach to it. Because when I say from inside, I'm saying there is something there you don't see that led you to this path, to the burnout. And it's not only about seeing and understanding and acknowledging, it's about actually feeling. And yeah, I saw many people who, for example, they were successful in their lives in a certain career and they thought to be okay. And then the burnout comes and they struggle. And then they found a tool like yoga or other mindful practices or embodiment or whatever that help them get into a more relaxed and learn self-regulation and other mechanisms that can support well-being and help them, if not totally get out of the state of burnout, at least navigate this in a different way. And then their life has changed to the degree that the tools or methods they learned to cope with the burnout became a second opportunity, a second path, even a second work or job. And they completely probably abandoned the first one and the first career. And it's also obvious that many people will think that burnout is an opportunity for awakening, for then starting to realize there is more to life and I can change my life to an extreme degree if I decide to quit what I was doing and I start something new. But what I also see in many of these cases is that then they, even if they overcome the burnout or they are in the process of it, they start a life where there is still uncertainty and more to conquer and maybe even more to do. And the transition is often difficult because if you are not fully recovered from burnout, you risk to get into a second burnout and the third one and so on. So actually, instead of having a full awakening to a different life path and to a different attitude towards the self, is just a continuation of this pattern, of this cycle. And it's possible that many are not even aware that this is happening, but they create this illusion that I'm able to do this just by changing the job or changing the environment. One thing that I can say for sure that needs to be changed, and here I speak not only from my experience but also as a therapist, is that the change has to come from inside, but has to come from a place where we are out of this illusion, where we understand the source of this imbalance inside, and we start to work on it. So we come to a point where we don't need to make such drastic life changes, but the small steps are enough, and also are steps that are made with full awareness of where we come from and where we need to go, and how we can bridge the gap between our life circumstances that in most cases for those who have burnout or experiences are quite traumatic and difficult, and what we think or what we believe would mean to change something. And again, when I speak about change, I don't speak about a change that we plan and we think about, but a change that comes in a very soft, in a very uncontrolled and also fluid way, and where we don't have to make more effort to overcome the burnout. Because when we start to have to put more effort into what we do, then we never get out of it in reality. We just entertain the fantasy that we are out and we doing this and that for this purpose, but it doesn't happen. So it can become a vicious cycle. And maybe what I'm saying is not completely clear to you why and what exactly means, but I will give some examples. And of course, I could bring examples from sessions with clients that I know they experienced burnout and they went through these processes, but I will try to create some abstract or more general examples so you can either relate to it or at least understand what I want to say and how this can help you. So let's say one example could be that you are a very successful person and you have been educated, you went through university and through many degrees, and you achieved maybe even a PhD. I personally have a PhD, but I don't consider myself superior because of this. It is just a specialization I did, so I could do my profession, and actually without it, I would have less chances to do the profession I have and the way I do it. And you strive in life, and you're very ambitious, and you are workaholic as I used to be, and you think that you will one day you will conquer the world, and you strive to do more, and you do more, and you do more, and then at a certain point something inside you breaks down, and you feel you don't have energy and motivation anymore for what you're doing, and also that life is hostile, and maybe your circumstances in life feel hostile and things like that. And yeah, you might want to look again around you and see what's available in terms of resources and real support to cope with this, because sometimes people will send you to a psychologist or a therapist, and they will give you maybe some exercises or some suggestion for practices that you can do so you can recover from this burnout. Maybe you get on sick leave for a while so you can rest more and so on. Uh, and for a while it might seem that everything goes well, and then maybe you get back to work or you decide to quit work and start something else, and everything seems to go well for a while, and then you fell again, you break down again. And then let's say that you meet a therapist that knows a little bit about trauma. And when I speak about trauma, I don't speak about the trauma informed approach. I speak about therapists who work with trauma, who understand trauma biography, who understands the steps for recovery from trauma, and who are not quick fixer as other therapists. So go to those who know something and have some experience. And you start to work on the burnout. And the first question that you might want to ask is, okay, I understand that I push myself to limits and I challenge myself, and then at a certain point I couldn't hold anymore all this inner pressure, and it exhausted me. Why this happens? And of course, the second question would be, how can I recover from this? Or is it like a permanent situation for my life? I will be like disabled for life because I don't have so much energy, or I don't know if I will ever be able to work full time or things like that. So if we want to address the first question, the simplest way is to look into the root cause of it. And there are many different tools, but for me, what helped me was to use the tools I learned and I had trainings for. And one was family constellation or systemic coaching, and then the other one, the IOPT method, identity oriented psychotrauma therapy. And with both methods, we can approach the burnout as a systemic concept, as something, because our body is a system, but we are also part of a family. Because many times the pattern of burnout, it's good that we think about it as a pattern, as we see it in many people, and in many people that might have similar pathways in life or even similar um, developments of this situation. So, as belonging to a system, to a family system, you can actually replicate from your for the members of your family system a certain predispositional pattern for burnout. But also we have to consider that family system who have a high background of traumatization, they can offer a ground also for the possibility of a person to suffer burnout. And you can approach the root cause either looking into burnout through its symptoms, or you just look to the family system and you work with the intention to understand if this is related with anyone in your family, in your lineage, or with a specific situation that you have. Because the burnout, also from a more, let's call it trauma-informed perspective, can also come often from an inner state of conflict and tension. As all the symptoms that we experience in burnout, the exhaustion, the sensation that you are always drained, that you cannot focus, you have some brain fog, and that you can be easily overwhelmed, that your nervous system is unbalanced, and so on. All these symptoms can also come from the splits that the traumatic event created in your life, the split at the psychic or emotional, energetic level. And these splits are often multiple, are complex, and are overlap. It's a layers of splits over splits. They just tend to accumulate over life, over the time span of a life, if you don't resolve them, if you don't start to work on these puzzles. And many people who would try to overcome burnout, also with medication and with tools that can help them maintain a certain level of energy. But from my own experience and from what I know it can work or not, if you are continuously drained of energy and you feel that it's difficult for you to recover a more normal or average level of energy, and you go from a peak to a very low level and then again a high level, it can also be that the body wants to show you there is a hidden mechanism inside that prevents this regulation, or to be able to arrive to a certain average level, or at least to maintain it. And it's obvious that the clues that the body shows are the symptoms. But as I said, behind any symptoms, that can be a trauma or multiple traumas. And one concept that might be somehow new for many, and not many people speak about it when we speak about burnout, is that often these symptoms that we might experience later or sooner in life, they come from hidden dynamics that are even hidden to our own consciousness, to our own mind, because they are stored as implicit memories. And that is because this trauma happened in a period where our own conscious memory were not created. And when I speak about it, I refer to the period that we spent in our mother's womb. And so you will for sure not remember what happened there. And in many cases, you don't even know what happened before. and I'm referring here again what I was speaking about the family lineage and their own patterns of burnout. Because the fact that 2-3 generations before they were not speaking so often about burnout as today doesn't mean they didn't have it. They have it, but for sure it was labeled in other ways like depression or syndromes of all sorts. Or maybe not even given a label, because at the time maybe medicine was not so advanced to have labels for different manifestations of burnout. And so what I'm saying is that if you go through this now, or you have been, and you still feel that you didn't gain a full balance and control of your body state or of your burnout, maybe there was a relapse, or maybe for a while it was okay, and then you notice that some symptoms are coming back, and you would like to understand a little bit more about it. The advice I can give as a therapist is to actually look into your trauma biography, but that has been created at the beginning of your life, from conception to the birth, and even the first 2-3 years of birth, when we don't have much memories of what happened to us. And I know that seems a little bit weird that I tell you this, but my conviction is that many of the answers you are searching for, and even many of the opportunities that they can open for you to overcome burnout, comes from this period of life and from the possibility to work with those traumas. And again, even if you don't remember, and because you don't remember them, don't think that they don't influence you nowadays or in the future, because they can be kept hidden for years and years and years, and then suddenly something huge, dramatic happens, and many things start to come to life and start to be remembered by the body. And it can happen in many surprising ways. And so, if you are curious to know more about this, I'm offering periodically workshops. I'm doing them mainly online under the name of Womb Constellations. And they are a possibility to explore traumas in the womb, both for men and women. And I'm also offering sessions and mentorship programs where we can also work with all these aspects that I was already mentioning. And be curious and investigate. Don't think that you are safe for burnout only because you adopted a practice like yoga or I don't know, other kind of therapies that work with the body and help to sustain a certain level of energy, because energy is always fleeting, is always unstable if you didn't create yet the stability inside by recovering that connection that was missing. Because fundamentally, when trauma split happen, you disconnect. That is the definition of trauma, psychotrauma essentially. And disconnection creates instability and creates all sorts of illusions about how we can regulate and control what's happening with us. But we can only do this if we connect again and we establish that wholeness that has been fragmented through trauma. So again, I know there are many divided opinion and many different methods proposed nowadays for healing from burnout or overcoming it. But I can assure you that until you don't get to the root cause of it and you start to understand it and to 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 retrieve that stable, that foundation of understanding and connection with yourself, you can always go into extremes and be well for a while and then fall back into the pattern of burnout. So reflect on my words. And yes, if you're curious about your own situation and you never tried trauma therapy, and specifically with these two methods I mentioned, I can assure you that there is much to uncover and you might be surprised with the results. Hoping that this short video served you and your understanding about burnout, your overall information resources. I send blessings and enjoy the spring. Hopefully it will come to Norway. For the moment the trees are still naked, but soon they will blossom. I hope so. Thank you for following. Subscribe and like and share if you enjoyed this lecture. Bye bye.